But a gentleman stood up, a prime minister stood up, and he said to me, "Sir, could I ask you a question? You're saying we have to pay our bills. If we don't pay our bills, will the United States protect us from Russia?" I said, "If you don't pay, you mean you're delinquent?" He said, "Yes." He said, "If you're delinquent, we will not protect you." I took
Hey, Shalom, brother. Shalom. This is Brother Ahawad of GMS Toronto coming back with another one. And there you have it, said straight from the devil's mouth, man. Hey, these presidents, all right, because the United States is just a debt collector. That's all they are, all right? That's why they invest so much money into their military, right? I think over 300 billion. I could be mistaken. Probably more, I don't know. But they invest a lot into their military. Why? Because they're a debt collector, right? They go around the world and they work for the international banking cartels to make sure that these nations pay their bills, right? And guess what? Many wars throughout history have been started, or I should say influenced by financial obligations, right? Or debts owed to the bankers. Mainly the Rothschilds. But this has been happening even before the Rothschilds, right? Because guess what? These different rulers, right? Even when you go back into when you Jakes were ruling, when we were ruling all throughout Europe, we did that as well because we were the first bankers, international bankers, so to speak, and we loaned money to people. And when they didn't pay, well, guess what? Certain wars started because we wanted that money back, right? These people would borrow money for their mostly people would borrow money for military, right? But then also infrastructure, right? To build up their homes or build up their countries, right? Different government operations, right? Like today, the most amount of money America borrows is for social services. America borrows a lot of money for social services, and they haven't defaulted, right? But when they do default, well, guess what? They're going to have to pay those loans. This is why the MOTB is so important. The MOTB is important because America will never be able to pay its debts. So the MOTB has to come into play. So then every citizen is on the hook for that debt. Now the borrower is going to be a subject onto the lender, right? That's how that works. Now this is Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7, and it says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender," right? And that's what this whole society is built off of, because really and truly, there's only a few places on earth where there's not a central bank. And wherever there's a central bank, you're going to have money lending, right? You're going to have the money lenders. You're going to have something known as fiat currency, right? So guess what? That's why the scripture says, rich or poor, free and bond, we're all going to be subject to the MOTB. What is the MOTB? That's the mark of the beast, right? Because it all stems from debt and economic pressures. And guess what? All throughout history, these are the things that have led to war, right? Even when you go back to Saddam Hussein, and I'm not talking about during the time of Baby Bush. I'm talking about the time of Papa Bush, right? What's his name? Saddam Hussein owed billions. He owed billions of dollars, right? Really, he owed it to who did he go to war with? He went to war with Kuwait, right? He owed billions to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and obviously different financial institutions. I won't say their names, but wink, wink, brothers should know, right? One of the largest banking cartels in the world, right? This was like in the 1980s that they were borrowing, right? And it was mainly because of war. And then because they were unable to pay their debts, what's his name, Saddam Hussein accused Kuwait of economic warfare, which is something that these people use, right? Economic warfare has always been used throughout history. That's what Donald Trump is doing now against Canada with the tariffs, right? Those are means of economic warfare. Now, this is from Google AI Overview. It reads, economic warfare is the use of economic policies to disrupt an enemy's economy. Tariffs are a type of economic warfare that involves taxing imports to support domestic industries. And it reads, tariffs. Targeted tariffs. A country may impose tariffs on specific goods from another country to send a political message. For example, Canada imposed tariffs on Florida orange juice, Tennessee whiskey, and Kentucky bourbon in response to U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, right? You can't get any more plain than that. So that's what these people have done all throughout history. Now, just going back to the conflict between Iraq and Kuwait, this is what led to the war, right? If brothers remember, I think that was in the 1990s. There was something known as a Gulf War. Now, if you ever studied the Gulf War, they let you know that the Gulf War was started over. It says the invasion was primarily over disputes regarding Kuwait's alleged slant drilling, right? This is what Wikipedia says. The invasion was primarily over disputes regarding Kuwait's alleged slant drilling in Iraq's Rumallah oil field, as well as to cancel Iraq's large debt, right? That's the main point. It was all over debt, right? Because after the Gulf War, there was economic sanctions against Iraq that literally crippled Iraq, right? So when the U.S. under Baby Bush, when they did invade in 2023, right? It was all about control of the oil and all about the finances, right? The poppy fields and stuff like that. It was all about money. It was never about liberating the Iraq people. The US, they were the ones that were sanctioning Iraq. They were the ones that were harming the people, right? They were the ones harming the people under people like what's the UK Prime Minister? He went to war with them as well. That next devil, man. He's a next Luciferian. Tony Blair. That guy Tony Blair. He's a next Luciferian, man. I can't remember what section he's in. I can't remember. Is he a no? I don't think he's a Mason. He's a high up guy, man. He's super high up. That guy Tony Blair. That's a real demon, man.
A lot of heat. Although it was somewhat closed door, I took a lot of heat from the media. And you know what happened? The money started pouring in. That's why NATO has money. And the Secretary General said it was the most incredible thing he had ever seen in a negotiation. Now, if I would have said, yes, we will, nobody would have.
Yeah, because what do you call that, right? Like one of my favorite scenes is from that movie Shatas, where he's just like, I escort me. And then he's just like, no, druggy, escort, right? This is extortion, right? You people have to pay extortion, right? This is extortion money, right? The U.S. will only protect you, even Canada. The U.S. will only protect you only if you pay. And that's what Trump is saying. Trump is saying, yo, listen, pussy, we protect you. We protect your punk asses, right? Because compared to us, well, guess what? Your military is pathetic, right? Our military is over $300 billion a year, and Canada's military is like 8 billion, right? It's pathetic. So that's what Donald Trump is saying. Donald Trump is just like, yo, we'll protect you, but this also extends into them being debt collectors as well, right? That's why people are afraid of the U.S. They're afraid of they're afraid of the international bankers because they know the international bankers will send a whole army after them if they don't pay their debts. Before it even gets to all out war, right? They might start with sanctions, right? They might put different economic hardships on you. They might send their jackals, right? There's a new TV show out, but I think it was a movie before called Jackal or Jackals, with this killer, this hired gun. But that's what these people do, right? They hire these international hitmen that will go over into these different countries and assassinate heads of states and put in their puppet leaders, right? When you go into the French intervention, when you go into Mexico's debt crisis, right? That was all because the guy Benito Juarez, he was the president at that time. He suspended all foreign debt payments, right? And that's because of economic instability, right? So guess what France, Britain, and Spain did? Guess what they did? Because it was the banks that had lent money to Mexico, right? They sent military forces to pressure repayment, right? They said, yo, listen, we're going to war. We're going to war. But guess what? The reason why Mexico was so strong at that time is because they were backed by Napoleon, right? So really and truly, they were backed on both sides. The bankers always do this, right? They invest, right, or they back both sides of the wars, right? That's what happened. That's what happened in what's it called? In Napoleon's War, right? Because it was the Rothschilds. It's not even something that they hide. The Rothschild family, they back both sides. They back Britain and they back Napoleon, right? But Britain at that time was they were in debt, right? And they borrowed heavily. So guess what? Those bankers wanted their money from somewhere. They didn't really care if Britain went down. They didn't care about supporting Napoleon, right? This whole world could have looked different if it wasn't for prophecy, of course, right? Even though what was that battle? That battle at Waterloo, right? You had that battle at Waterloo in 1815 where they said that Napoleon's forces were overwhelmed. But the Rothschilds, what's his name? Nathan. It was Nathan Rothschild that got the message ahead of time, right? That Napoleon lost the war. But he started to sell. He started to sell. He said, sell. And the people panicked, right? The people in Britain at that time, they panicked and they sold everything, right? And when they sold everything, Nathan Rothschild start buying up everything for cheap because he knew that Britain actually won. They didn't lose. He knew that they actually won. So this is the type of financial warfare that these people engage in, right? These people are some wicked ass people, man. Wicked ass people.
Paid. If I would have loved to say, yes, we'll protect you even if you don't pay. But that's not the way life works.
You see that? He's letting you know, right? He's speaking to you in a way where he's letting the world know, yo, listen, you don't pay your debts. Well, we're going to come after you, man, because that's all that the U.S. is. They're just a bunch of bullies, man, right? They're just an arm of the international bankers to force people to pay debts, because this world is ran off of debts, man. Now, this is Exodus chapter 22, verse 25, and it reads, "If thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury. If thou at all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it unto him by that the sun goeth down. For that is his covering only, it is his raiment for his skin, wherein shall he sleep. And it shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I will hear, for I am gracious," right? But it begins powerful. In verse 25, it says, "If thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer, neither shalt thou lay upon him usury," right? What is usury? Now, this is from AI Overview, Google AI Overview. It says usury is the practice of lending money at an interest rate that is considered excessive or unfair. The term can be used in a moral or legal sense. Moral sense, usury can be used to condemn taking advantage of someone's misfortune, right? That's what these international bankers do, right? That's why our people are in the position that we're in. We're in the position that we're in because of debts, right? We borrow, we cannot pay back, but we borrow because this money is a representation of debt. But we need to pay our bills, so we have to borrow, right? It's a never-ending cycle, right? Like if you ever seen the hamster on the wheel, right? That's why they tell you this life is like the hamster on the wheel, but that's not how life should be, right? But we're steady chasing the proverbial carrot, okay? Never gonna catch. It says legal sense usury can be used to describe charging interest rates that are higher than the maximum allowed by law, right? So how come these people are able to get away with it? How come these bankers are able to get away with it? Because they rule the world with force, right? They rule the world with force. These international bankers, they're not no local jokers, man. These guys are some straight killers, man. These are some straight up killers, and they will kill you. The international bankers don't play no games, right? The top hitmen, the top military forces in the world work for them, right? All police forces, when you see that badge, when you see them with their badge, they all have the badge of Rothschild. That's the Sheila Rothschild. There's not one single one of those militaries, because the Rothschild owns militaries. They own judges, politicians. Okay, so you can't play with these bankers. That's why they're able to get away with whatever they get away with. They're able to charge interest and keep people in debt and get away with it. Why? Because of the military. Now, this is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 6, and it reads, "Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe," right? And that word woe means destruction. So destruction to him that increaseth that which is not his. Exactly, right? Right, all you international bankers, right? All you people in power, all you're doing is increasing which is not yours. It's gonna all be transferred soon. But you already know that, right? These international bankers, these people that rule the world, they already know how power works. Power is transferred, right? Riches are transferred. So it says, "Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeneth himself with thick clay," right? That thick clay is talking about heavy debts, right? The amount of money that the world owes to these international bankers, right? They will never be able to pay. These debts are not supposed to be paid off. These debts are supposed to keep you in captivity so the international bankers can implement the means that they want to implement on the world, which is the MOTB. It all goes back to the MOTB, brothers. Right? This is Revelation 13 and 17. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And that's the time we're living in, man. We're living in a time where the international bankers are going to crash the system because they already have the new system in place, which the system is digital, right? We're living in the digital world, man. So for all you people that have stored up cash, right? Because they've been telling you from the time they introduced Bitcoin that they were done with cash, right? They were just getting the world integrated. They had to integrate the world. They had to get the world ready, right? Because remember, this is going to be a global system. This is not just a system that is in Canada or a system that's in the United States. This is a global system, right? So, right, they're here. They're on the precipice of their new enterprise, right? This is Job chapter 5, verse 12. He disappointed the device of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise, right? So that's what we're out here doing, man. We're out here proclaiming the name. We're out here proclaiming the laws, statutes, and commandments, and also the prophecies that are about to come to pass, right? And the judgment, right? We're in the time of the judgment of the great whore, right? We're in the time of the downfall of the Edomites, right? Which links up with the birth of Esau and Jacob, when Jacob's hand first held Esau's heel, because Esau is the end of the world, right? So we're in the time of your end, you fucking devils, right? And there's nothing that you could do. So with that, I like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. I'd like to say double honors unto the elders and elder apostles of GMS that rule well and that teach well. And to the brothers on the four corners of the earth doing this work in truth and in sincerity, right? Shalom. Till next time, Kwam Yasharala, and Abad Babal to this wicked, filthy place, man.